Thank you so much for tuning in to She's All Over the Place with Petecka. That's me.
Welcome, welcome. So happy you're here. She's all over the place. I have a special guest today. Her name is Sonia, and she is a specialist in the human design. So what happened was, not this past July, but the July before that, I went home and visited my family, and my sister, Anna, who's a complete genius, Anna Chonacas, look her up, she did my human design. Now, prior to that, a couple people in the health and wellness community, for a couple of years, they'd asked me, what's your human design? Do you know your human design? What's your human design? And it kept coming up, but then I wasn't able to pinpoint it and look it up and do the research. And then thankfully, when I came home one July 4th, my sister knew her human design. She's a generator, and she did my human design, and I'm a projector. And she did my whole chart. She printed it out. She did the open spaces, she color coded and everything. And I have it. And she's just a genius, and she's brilliant, and I'm so excited. And then she turned me on to Jenna Zoe, who's a specialist in the human design. She's over in the UK, I believe. And so I followed her on Instagram. I went back to New York and to Los Angeles, and I was like, I want to know more about the human design. And so I went online and I was looking for a specialist, and I found Sonia. And at the time she was in Seattle. Now she's in Miami. She was just in Poland for 1 month visiting her family, and, full circle came around. She gave me a beautiful reading, and I have the podcast, and the human design is so important. And I feel like if more people know about the human design, we would understand ourselves, our relationships better, and even, God willing, when I have children one day, I want them to do their human design, and I'll understand on a fundamental level that instead of being an emotional being, why isn't my son or daughter doing this? Or emotionally, why isn't my mom or dad or my friend or my boyfriend or whoever doing this? I'll be like, that's not in their human design, or they're this way, they're behaving this way because of their human design. So there's 5 types of human design, and I am so excited. With no further ado, let's have Sonia on. Sonia, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. Really excited to be here and share more about this amazing tool that has really changed my life in many ways. So
cool. And how long have you been involved in the human design?
I think it's been a few years. It must have been 2017, maybe beginning of 2018 that I found out about it. And, first I just wanted to learn about my design. I'm a manifesting generator, and, throughout my whole life, I judged myself for changing directions and for kind of, I felt like I was so disconnected from myself when I was younger. I didn't even know what my desires were. So I just kind of went along with whatever my family wanted for me or whatever would please others. And so, but then when I couldn't do it anymore, for example, my grandparents really wanted me to be a doctor, and I was pre-med in college and actually worked in science research and immunology research after college. But at some point, I couldn't lie to myself that I didn't want to do it. And then I kind of left that behind, and I went on to business school, which was another thing that I thought that it would be, I mean, in a way I followed my excitement. Living in New York at that time was exciting to me. So I followed my excitement there and went to business school. So I was in Boston for college and then in New York for graduate school. While I was in business school, I found Kundalini yoga and meditation and started doing that, and eventually did my teacher training, started getting more into personal growth. But yeah, I have always had so many interests, and I thought it was a bad thing that I couldn't pick just one. I used to really judge myself that I didn't have this linear path. But then when I learned about what being a manifesting generator is like, it's, you're supposed to be all over the place. I know, it's perfect.
Yeah. So where were you born?
I was born in Poland. So my family and I won our green cards when I was very young, when I was 3 or 4. So we came to the US, for a few weeks once a year to kind of keep our green cards.
Yeah.
And then when I was 16, my mom decided decided, she kind of wanted to start over and move to the US. So my mom is here. My dad is still in Poland. So yeah, I've been here since I was 16. So a long time.
Yeah. And then you mentioned Kundalini. So I've been doing Kundalini since I was 8 years old. Before I even knew the word Kundalini, I was just in touch with the universe and in spirit and inspired. And I just had all this space. And every time I got out of a long, hot shower, I would always just sit with myself for about 45 minutes. And I would just calm all my neurotransmitters. And I would just do these things like this. I would just, from the heart, what you do in Kundalini like this, I would stir up all the stuff in the heart through deep breathing. And then I would just, I would do different things that you do and that you learn in Kundalini. So I went to the Golden Bridge in New York and in LA. Did you go to the Golden Bridge in New York as well?
Yeah, that's where I did my teacher training, actually.
Oh, you did a teacher training. How cool.
Yeah. And so I taught, but yeah, my teacher training was at Golden Bridge. And then I taught in New York and in Seattle for a bit.
Where did you teach in New York?
In New York, I taught kind of around different buildings, like in, gyms within buildings. And then in Seattle, at this place that was like a gyro place, like the different forms of movement. Anyway, it's called the Seattle Changing Room. And then I did some lives on Instagram teaching. So actually those are still up on IGTV. So if anyone wants to check those out, who knows, maybe I'll start teaching in Miami soon.
Yeah, definitely. And online. And right, with the way the world is right now. And for those who don't know about Kundalini is all about raising the vibration of the energy. So let's say if you're drinking or something like that, your vibes get very low. But like if you're at Disneyland or if you're around other people who are high in spirits and high in energy, your Kundalini rises, and it's important to keep your Kundalini high. And I'm a high energetic person. So sometimes with my Kundalini, I get so high that I need to root with my feet in the sand or in the water. I'm a water sign. I need to hug a tree to be more grounded because Kundalini can get you so high that you have to be able to have that balance of grounding that Kundalini as well, your energy.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, really what appealed to me, I didn't even like yoga before I found Kundalini, but to me, it was really nice because I felt like other forms of yoga can be like very performance-like, like you're comparing yourself to others, and I wasn't that flexible. And Kundalini, you do it with your eyes closed. It's a very internal experience. It's a very spiritual experience. It's very deep. So anyway, that's just my my plug for Kundalini.
Yeah, and it couples with Tibetan meditation and really getting to the deep-rooted space of the mind to silence the mind. And heal that way as well. Yeah, those other poses, you're like looking over to the left, but all our bodies are different. So it's not like my leg isn't doing what that person's legs is doing, and my arms don't go that far down. And it's like we all have our different bodies. So speaking of bodies, let's talk about the human design. So as I mentioned, there's 5 different types of human design. And what's your mission statement? What is the human design for you?
So to me, it's really creating unity in the world through the realization that we're all so different and different things work for different people. So we were taught that there's this one way to success and that you have to kind of be, hustle and go get what you want and make it happen. But, that doesn't work for everyone. And there are, so the 5 energy types that you mentioned, that's just an entry point into human design. That's like the first thing. So the energy type is really about how you're exchanging energy with the world and with other people. And it's really about using the energy you have so that you can optimize, how you use your energy and have more of it ultimately, and use it in a correct way. So you experience more flow. So the right opportunities come to you. And really, it's the first thing you will learn in your human design, but it's the thing that creates the biggest shift. So yeah, anyway, so basically just realizing that we all function so differently, and it's okay. Some people are meant to be more selfish and, focused on themselves, and some others find their worth through helping others, and that's okay. And we don't have to make the other way wrong,
Yeah. And when we're misaligned with our human design, we're wasting a lot of energy, and the energy that you can't see, but it's felt, and we waste a lot of it. So now knowing my human design, it's a practice, because I can look back and I can be like, oh my God, so many times I was just exuding and wasting so much energy. And then I would feel so unfulfilled and I'd be so upset and I'd be like, why is it going like this? And it's like, oh, because with my human design, I understand, like, I don't need to go banging on everyone's doors, because I'm a go-getter and I'll just go knock on everyone's doors. And I would like put myself out there, go, go, go. But as, a part of, and we'll get into it, of my human design is, it's the gift of the invitation, and people come to me. So when the opportunity is presented to me, then I can share, because I would share all these things. I would like send 200 emails or like a blast call and like let all these people know things. And it's like, blah, blah. And like people aren't wanting to know those things. But if I can just sit still and be present with the gifts that I have, and when someone, and they do come to me, and now I have the space because I'm not blah, blahing all the time. More people are actually coming to me with the invitation, and I'm able to give value and insight because I can align with those people who actually need it, want to receive it, and they're open because they're asking me for it. But I mean, it was just so draining. And then even after knowing my human design, I caught myself in the pattern of still going out there and doing the old things. However, since I knew about it, I could rein it in and be like, uh-oh, you're doing it, and like be more mindful. And so it's a practice of being mindful and shifting into the vibration of like being tuned to my human design. So that's another reason why I'm really excited to connect with you today, because we can get more in depth again. And so it's not just like a one-off kind of thing. It's like you can do it and then maybe check back in with you every 6 months or something to say, hey, this has been working, this hasn't been working, and like share it with our community so it becomes a language that's, full force for everyone, right?
Exactly. And so that's why I'm also like, now I don't want to just do readings. I want to offer support after the reading. I do it over an app called Voxer, but I think that implementation part is really important because, you learn all this, but then it's like, yeah, you really have to live it every day. And we're always gonna, fall off, and, we're gonna listen to the conditioning of the world and how the world tells us we need to be. But we can always redirect, and the universe will help us with some telltale signs, which is different for each type. For example, for projectors, which you are, you'll experience bitterness when you're not living according to your energy type. For me, as a manifesting generator, it's frustration. And it's like an energetic kind of frustration or bitterness.
Yeah.
Where was I going with this? I don't know. I just get so excited. But obviously, yeah, I mean, the world, the messaging is so strong that we're always going to kind of veer off our path. And that's okay, because there are things to learn there too.
Okay, cool. So jumping in, let's identify the 5 different types of the human design for the viewers.
Okay, so the 5 energy types are projectors, which you are, which are about 20% of the population. Then there's manifestors, who are about 10% of the population. And then there are manifesting generators. So they're about 35%, and generators about 35%. So manifesting generators are kind of like a combination of a manifestor and a generator. And lastly, we have reflectors that are about 1% of the population. And so they're like the unicorns.
My sister's a generator. My partner, he's a manifestor generator, and Jenna Zoe's a projector. Do you know Shaman Durek?
Yeah, I've heard of him.
He's the homie. Yeah, he has Ancient Wisdom podcast. He's a projector as well. I'm a Scorpio. He's a Scorpio. But yeah, he's a projector. And what are you?
I'm a manifesting generator.
Manifestor generator. Okay, cool. So like you're the kind of person who does what you do, which you can explain, and then you bring the opportunity to me and I make it happen, right?
So it's a bit different. So like projectors are here to be guides. They're here to see and not do. So you're meant to kind of offer the world, like you see a certain system or like a niche really well, or several systems or niches, and you're meant to bring efficiency to how the rest of the world does things. So for example, you're kind of like the bird in a tree, and you're observing everything going on the ground, like all of us other types are kind of on the ground doing things. things and you're like, oh, I can see you could do this more efficiently. So yeah, so that's basically projectors, but they only came in to the world in the 18th century when people started living longer. So before projectors came in, it was really the manifestors that were the kings and queens. And if you weren't a manifester, you were kind of suppressed. So then once projectors came in, people are now more able to do what they want to do and really create a life, focus on what kind of life they want to create and create the life of their dreams. So yeah.
Elizabeth Taylor is a projector. Steven Spielberg's a projector. Who else is a projector?
I think Obama.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, I forget. But yeah, a lot of like coaches as well, because projectors have a very penetrating aura. So you can see deeply into people.
And so everyone can Google the human design and read more about it. You can look up the 5 types Sonia just mentioned. There's actually blogs and forums. So you can read about different couples who are like MGs, manifestor generators, and like projectors, and how they complement each other, and how they create space for one another. And there's questions you can ask and things like that. And you can reach out to Sonia. She has a website. She has an Instagram. I'll put those in the show notes. And then at the end of the show, or now, you can share that with the listeners as well, of how they can reach you directly and get in touch.
Sure. So on Instagram, I'm at Sonia, Sonia, Petecka, Petecka. And my website is soniapetecka.com. So soniapetecka.com. So yeah, find me. Definitely, I post a lot of content related to human design and personal growth. So yeah, and definitely reach out to me if you have any questions or doubts.
And then every single projector is different. They're not all the same.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, that's, as I mentioned, the energy type is just the first thing in your chart, but there are so many others. So also there are even different kind of projectors. So you're a classic projector, which means you really see very objectively and you can pivot pretty fast.
Oh yeah, quick.
So yeah, and so that's the first layer. Then the second thing that's really important to know about your chart, and we haven't even covered, the whole projector thing, but we can get back to it. So the second thing, that's the second most important thing to know about your chart, is your authority. So that's how you make decisions, the right decisions for you. So for you, that's splenic. So your spleen talks to you. It's kind of like a sixth sense. It's like a quick intuitive hit. So the spleen is all about like instinct, like a survival instinct. So it's really, and human design, really ultimately what it teaches us is that the intuition lives in the body, and how we're supposed to make decisions is by listening to the wisdom of the body instead of, letting ourselves make decisions with our minds, because we love to overanalyze and use logic and all that. But the mind, according to human design, is designed to be turned outward to process the world, but we force it to turn inward and kind of predict things and make decisions, which is actually can limit us, because the mind can only come up with so many, possibilities. So yeah, it's really about being present in the body, and especially for splenic authority, you have to catch it because it only speaks once in the moment. So you want to like strengthen the muscle, like write down what your spleen is telling you.
How do you know? Like, what you know, but what if you think you know, or what if you don't know, or what if you're confused on it? How can you get in touch to be like, yo, is that my splenic speaking or what?
Right. Well, it's a practice, as with everything, you want to practice like writing down what your spleen is telling you, knowing that the spleen is where like the instinct lives, but also kind of the fears and anxieties. So, but the spleen is all about survival. So it's like, it leads you to what is right for you in terms of like what is healthy, what is correct, what is safe. So it's kind of like a sixth sense, like, you just get like a feeling. And
where would you get the feeling? Here, down here? Like, where is that feeling, do you think?
Because I'm not a splenic authority. So, it's different for every person, but it's not like directly in the spleen, like in the body in the spleen, because it's just an energetic center, right?
Got it.
So yeah, I guess it's like just like an intuitive hit for me. Well, I have, because also I'm sacral authority, so I'm like the gut tells me it's all about excitement and creativity and desire. But I also have a defined spleen. So like the spleen will tell me something, but my sacral always has the final say.
Yeah.
So it's also like all about the different things going on in your chart. Like for you, it's just the spleen. It's just the sixth sense. It's like kind of the first thing that you feel like, when you need to make a decision. So you want to follow that because it also,
just knows.
Yeah, it just knows.
Whatever
and it
hits me, it's like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Because I get rush hits, right? I definitely get rush hits. Mm-hmm.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it changes very quickly, so you want to act on it when it, it's a practice to not like overanalyze and doubt it and be like, oh, I really should, this doesn't make sense. Like it doesn't have to make sense. That's why, our body can.
In business, I don't think twice. It's like I get the hit and I know, but in personal, I'll get the hit, but then I'll question myself like, wait, was that a hit? And I'm like, okay, I'm waiting for another hit to tell me that it was the same thing, but then it's not there and it tells me something else. So then I'll get confused and then I feel like I'm being indecisive and then going around in circles and then like in limbo. So in work and things that like I'm non-attached to emotionally, it's really like data analytical and just yes or no to the point. But when it's emotional, I guess when your heart and your mind gets involved, then it becomes sometimes confusing for me or more difficult for me to swim in those big waters.
Yeah. And I mean, that's also part of the deconditioning process to like be able to trust it that, this might not make sense, but I'm going to follow it, because as I said, we give so much importance to the mind and things having to fit into some narrative. So
yeah. And the mind's just a tool. It's just a tool, just like our hand. So it's not emotional. It doesn't care either which way. It's just a tool. We direct and tell it where to go and what to focus on, and it listens, Yeah.
So yeah, but so do you want to talk more about like projector stuff, or do you want to like keep going with your chart? Because it seems like you know a lot about living as a projector, but I can dive into
for me,
things a little more.
But for the viewers, I want them to know and dive deep as well. So I think let's just stick on this projector. Let's just go through my chart in detail, and then after we do that, we can dabble in the other areas.
Yeah, sure. So we talked a little bit about how they're kind of here to make things more efficient. They're non-energy beings. So projectors are not meant to add to the energy pool of the world. As I said, they're here to see. They see things that others can't and are meant to guide the rest of the world. So they're kind of the CEOs of the future who, because in the future world, everyone's doing what they're good at, what they're excited about. Everyone can kind of create goals for themselves and everyone's kind of more self-motivated. So it's not like the projectors, like in the old world, it was the manifestors who kind of like micromanaged people. But that's not needed anymore. And projectors are here, the CEOs, the new CEOs with the doors open that are available for guidance, but are not, actively managing people. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm really fascinated by projectors. But basically, you mentioned this, that, as a kid or even before, maybe you just want to offer what you see and you want to guide others. But when you offer that guidance without being invited, even energetically invited, because it's not really about an invitation in the mail, it's just about someone else recognizing you for your wisdom. So it's like if you offer your wisdom without the other person recognizing you, it's kind of like hitting a ball against the wall. You'll get like pushback or encounter resistance, or you'll be like viewed as like pushy or bossy. So
yeah, pushy or bossy. And it's like I knew reflecting, since I know what I know now, growing up, I've been to so many parties and events and places, and it's just like, I just felt invisible. I felt like not wanted. I felt so small. I felt so awkward and so uncomfortable. But then through my life of leaving where I grew up, my whole thing was like, and this is before I even knew the human design, I would only go to places where I was invited, because I knew when I was invited somewhere, I would be VIP, no waiting in line, the best seat, the best food, like everything taken care of, of, like I'm an Angelina Jolie, like gem star, like the it girl, right? So I would only go to places where I was invited. And when I went to places I was invited, I remember one time it was the opening of the Tropicana in Hollywood. It was the opening at the Roosevelt. It was like the pool party in like area. It was the opening, and it was Nick Montealegro's birthday, and he was like hosting the whole event. And I remember I literally took Dr. Tom. I took like so many different people, and Dr. Tom's an amazing chiropractor. He's the chiropractor for like Russell Crowe, Leonardo DiCaprio, Christina Aguilera. He's amazing. He does home calls. He's in West Hollywood. Dr. Tom, you gotta go see him. Pain Relief Center. Anyway, so like it was like Dr. Tom, you know, it was like me and like 18 friends, and it was like this red carpet, and I just got done doing a test shoot with Dior that day, and I had Dior like written like all over me, and I was like on the red carpet, and there were all these paparazzis taking photos. I showed up with like a harem of like 18 people, and it's like I was like the star of the party because I was invited, and there was like this huge long line, but it was just like I was like right there, boom. And so every single event that I've been to, like around the world, private dinners, whatever, it's like I always go where I'm invited, because then you know you're going to be treated nicely. And maybe I got that experience from being such a kid, showing up at places, like wanting to like show up, knocking on the door, and like I'm not invited, or it's like I'm having to like weasel my way in or whatever. So it was like, so I got all those feelings out of the way, and I made a choice to only go to places where I feel invited, because then I have that warm feeling of the projector of, you know, showing up for the invitation, right?
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, because you're a non-energy being, you want to conserve your energy and wait for people to ask you. And when they do invite you to share your wisdom, they're more willing to implement it, and, you know, will come back and want to work with you again. So it's really, you know, about working with whoever sees you clearly, whoever recognizes you, whoever knows that you have wisdom to share, because they have to have space. And I didn't talk about this, but you know, the energy type is all about your aura. So the 3 feet around you. So it's getting your aura clear and clean of all the conditioning that you picked up, you know, of how you're supposed to be. So it's clearing your aura of all that messaging that's, you know, not aligned with your design, so that, you know, more of the things that are right for you can come in and drop into your aura. So basically it's like the other person has to have space in their aura to receive your wisdom. And, you know, it's not to say that, you know, projectors need to be passive in any way. You don't have to just wait around for the invitation, but you first work on recognizing yourself and also curating the skills you have. So each projector has a thing that they see really clearly. So it's like asking yourself, what am I good at? And actually, a lot of projectors can't see themselves really clearly. So you might need to get some feedback from the outside world, what people think you're good at, and but just thinking about what comes really easily to you and valuing what comes easily, because, you know, we were taught that it has to be hard and we have to struggle, but that's the old world way of doing things.
Yeah. And if one doesn't know, it's like, just kind of reflect or take a note for 30 days or 60 days. What do people come to you for? What do they come to you for? Do they come to you for tech stuff, for beauty, for like help with this? Like, what are people coming to you for? And then like capitalize on that, because people value you as a trusted source for that specific thing.
Mm-hmm,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, while you're waiting for your invitations, like you put yourself out there. I mean, you can create a website, create your art, whatever it is, cultivate what you're good at, lean into your gifts. And then people start to pick up on your aura. Like, you are energetically communicating that you are a guide and that you're here to help innovate. And people will pick up on that everywhere. So, and they'll energetically come to you. So yeah. And, you know, projectors are meant to accomplish a lot, but in a very different way. They're only really meant to work like a few hours a day, and then spend the rest of the time learning, curating, and, you know, on their internal process, you know. And if you do too much in terms of work, like, you know, because projectors want to keep up with the rest of the world and do, but if you do too much, you don't have the space for that curation process. So
2 things. One, I want to circle back around with what you said about like your aura outside of your human body. So we have 12 main chakras, 7 main chakras inside the body. So the 8th and 9th chakra is your aura. So what would you suggest to the viewers? How can they cleanse their aura? What are some things you do and that you share with people, how they can do a daily ritual practice to make sure their aura is clear and clean so we can be open for that abundance of energy to connect with?
Right. Well, that will also depend on your chart, obviously. So in human design, it also includes the chakra system, but there are 9 energy centers in your chart. So it's a bit different. It's kind of like aligned with the chakras on the bottom and on the top. But anyways, so obviously like it depends on which centers you have filled in and which you don't. So for example, for you, you're what's called an open emotional. So through any centers that you have open, you're amplifying your environment. So for example, for you, the emotional center is open, which means you'll pick up on the emotions of others and you'll feel them more strongly than others. So, if someone's like sad on like a 2 out of 10 scale, just a little sad, you might feel like so sad in their presence, like, I don't know, 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
So it's, so that's just one example. That's the emotional center. So it all depends like which centers are open and which are defined. So the ones that are defined, you kind of have your own definition. So you have kind of a consistent energy there. And the open ones, you're kind of more susceptible to things coming in and you're amplifying them. So for each different energy center, there's like different deconditioning. For example, how to empty out, basically, how to empty out the things that you pick up. So for example, for the emotional center, you want to, like, if it gets too intense to be around people, you want to remove yourself and come back to your kind of cool, calm, and collected state. So that's one way. So you have to like look at your chart in terms of that. Yeah.
One thing I found along the way, because, two things. One, you said, like if someone's sad or happy at a 2, I'll take it to like a 6 or an 8. Then everyone's meeting in a circle and then everyone goes in different ways. And I'm still like at like an 8. So I found like for me because I'm open and to cleanse that energy, I'll go into a bathroom, or even if I'm at an event or something, I'll go into a bathroom. I'll run cool water on my wrist, or I'll take cool water and put it on my face or my neck. And I found that helps disperse the energy. Also, I find like a couple times a week, I need to sleep alone, because if I'm open, I'm picking up on other people's energies. So like wherever I'm at, I need to like shut the door, be in my own room, like you said, my own cocoon. It's been a lot going on with family and what's happening in the world. I had a day of solitude just yesterday, and literally like I was listening to chapters in the Bible, and I just like I wrote an article on Thrive Global, and I just besides that, I stayed off electronics, and I was just like just being with my own thoughts and just kind of detoxing. I did an emotional fast, a psychological fast, and a fasting of food. I just had water. I didn't eat anything, just to fast and to detox. And so those are some things that have helped me, with like taking the energies off and out and just being able to like recenter myself. The other thing is, because I'm so like deeply emotional, I'm a Scorpio, I'm a water sign. So some people, healers and people, will look at that as like being an empath. So would you look at that as being an empath as well?
Yeah, I mean, so there are like many layers. Obviously projectors are in general a little more sensitive than maybe some other types, but each design or each chart has a potential for empathy just through different centers. But definitely the emotional center, having an open emotional center, definitely makes you more sensitive to the emotions of others. So yeah, but there are other centers, wherever you're open, you're definitely feeling others more. So for example, like, you have an open sacral. So if we were together, I have a defined sacral as a manifesting generator. So, you could kind of ride ride the energy of other generators, because all generators have their sacral defined. So you can kind of, taste that kind of desired creative energy of other people. So sometimes, like, if you're lacking energy as a projector, you want to be around people with a defined sacral and ride their energy. So it's really interesting how that happens. But also, it's interesting that you talk about your fast, because so the arrows on top of your chart tell you different things, but the top left arrow for you is pointing right, which means you're not consistent. So you're actually better off without a routine, just like going with the flow, which also means that you can fast. You don't need, like consistent food. So it's like, because for people who are consistent, their brain is kind of like more on all the time and producing stuff. So they like need consistent fuel, but you as a projector and as an inconsistent, like fasting actually works for you. But that's another thing, like, in the health circles, it might be like, people might be saying, oh yeah, intermittent fasting is great for everyone. But actually it's not really great for consistent people. Or for example, for manifesting generators, they have the biggest engine, so they need more food.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So it's like,
Scorpio, he eats so much. It's not even funny. He'll eat like a plate and then like another plate, and then like he'll have my leftovers. He eats so much.
Yeah. So, but in general, like, projectors are meant to kind of eat more like birds, which we talked about, like small portions throughout the day, kind of like grazing and a lot of like carbs. So like fruit and grains instead of like fat and protein kind of. So that's like human design can also help you figure out how to eat better for your type, so that you're not, as a projector, you're not overloading your system and kind of weighing it down. Since you're more sensitive, you might want to keep things simple. And there's even another layer, which tells you about your digestion. So for you, for example, you do well with cold food or like food below your body temperature. So that's something to think about.
I'm always bloated, and I just don't know why. Like I'm like literally always bloated.
Interesting. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if...
I just did my Viome. Are you familiar with Viome?
I've heard of it, but I don't know much about it.
Viome, check it out. Jay Shetty talks about it on his podcast. He has Naveem, the creator of it. He's already a multi-billionaire. He didn't do it for the money. He did it for the health and nutrition of other people. But there are biologists who are in Africa who collect the fecal matter of the people there, of like certain tribes, because it's like, what are they eating? Because they're like supermodel and ripped. And anyway, so they basically, they look at your microbiome. So my sister got it for me for my birthday, and I'm getting my test results in the next 2 weeks. But so it'll specifically tell you like what to eat, what not to eat. Before the pandemic, I did my second intermittent fasting. And then during the pandemic, the creator of the Zero app said he went to a farm with his family for 2 years because of the coronavirus with non-perishable foods. And he was saying, actually, it's not good to do the intermittent fasting during the coronavirus, because when you're doing the intermittent fasting, your immune system goes right below the breaking point. And so with the virus, maybe it's not a very good thing to be doing. So I did it for 27 days and then I stopped. However, all the bloating went away. Like my tummy was like a 16, 18-year-old. It was just flat. It was like so tight and flat. And so I know the bloating can go away, and obviously it's from the foods, but I was eating still like plant-based and like mindful with certain things. So I'm excited to get the Viome results back soon. And also from Jay Shetty's podcast, you can get a 10% off on the Viome thing. So if anyone's interested in that, I want to circle back around really quick on the emotional part, because I'm diving deeper into emotions of vulnerability and mental health and just like understanding us as human beings. I just feel like I put up this wall in this shield and this like positive attitude of like everything's perfect and like positive Katie and like positive everything. So I wouldn't allow my emotions to show, because I wasn't taught how being vulnerable and showing your emotions was a strength, right? Brene Brown. And like, obviously now we know how the power of vulnerability. And I've been taught that along my journey thus far. But I was going around with this armor on and not showing that part of me when my human design is feeling so much more than other people, whether it be good, bad, up or down. So now that I understand, or I'm understanding myself and my human design, I'm allowing myself to be more vulnerable, and I'm allowing myself to feel sad if I'm sad and feel happy if I'm happy. And like some people will be like, oh, like manic depressive or bipolar, or they're like, they want to label you and say all these different things like, oh, empath, or like grow up, you need to be more mature, you're acting like a kid. And it's like, oh, what's wrong with being in spirit inspired with the Lord and being like knowing yourself and being connected to your spirit. So for everyone listening out there, because everyone's telling you, like Sonia said earlier, everyone's telling you like how you should be, how you should act, or being a people pleaser for other people. It's just like, well, just be sensitive to yourself. And if you're one of the ones who feel more or feel less, like it's okay. And we put up these shields and we want to like hide it. We want to isolate. We want to hide. And I'm here to let you know, like, it's okay to let the armor down, and it's going to be an ocean wave of emotions because it's going to be so uncontrollable because you're going to allow it to like come out and just allow it to just be messy. And more than ever, just allow it to be messy, allow it to come out. Like, you know what I mean? It's okay. And another thing I learned about grieving, and, a lot of us are taught to like close the door, cry, grieve alone, and cry alone, go to your room, cry. And it's like, it's okay to go to your room and cry alone, but it's okay also to cry and hold someone and cry with them and let them be in partnership with you. And Sonia's spending time with us right now. I'm so thankful for you, Sonia. Thank you so much, because we're spending time right now and we're ironing all these things out. And it's not just like a one-off. It's a remembrance, and it's a practice, and it's like, it's acknowledgement to show up to the mat. It's an acknowledgement to show up for each other and for ourselves, and to say, it's okay. And maybe I don't know. And maybe this time it'll be different. And then, it's a dance. So we're learning, and it's a process, and it's energy, and it's always in motion, energy in motion. And we're learning, and we're sharing, and we're growing as all this happens together. So I just wanted to like touch on that vulnerability of that emotional part of like keeping it hidden and being scared to letting it come out. And it's going to be so awkward at first, and then sensitive and all the other emotions. So it's like, I'm on the exploration of sitting with it, and people look at me, of who I know, they look at me and they're like questioning, and I'm just like, no need to explain. It's better not to say anything because their inner critic is just ready to say something right back. So it's best just not even to explain, because we're still figuring it out for ourselves. And so knowing a safe person to speak with, Sonia, knowing a safe person to speak with who will understand and allow for that to happen is an honorable thing. So just kind of food for thought, reflect on those kind of things. Let's all take a deep breath before moving on to the next thing Sonia's going to talk about. But thank you for allowing me to say that, because that's really strong and along my path right now, and encouraging other people to empower themselves in those moments.
No, that was beautiful. And thank you for that. And it's so powerful when we can find someone, a coach or a friend, but a coach is kind of more objective in a way, when they can be non-judgmental, and we can just, and especially as women, because expressing our emotions and how we feel is such a big feminine value. When we can just express how we feel and not fear that judgment. And even if it's, not pretty or whatever, like when we can just put it out there and not be afraid of judgment, that's like the most liberating thing. And just knowing that we can express like the whole range of emotions, because if you block the lower ones, you're blocking the higher ones, and you just keep yourself at the spectrum of like, I'm okay, I'm fine, at this like very narrow range. And also, as an open emotional, not over identifying yourself with your emotions, because you're picking up so much from your environment. An open emotional, because people who amplify emotions of others, they can feel more out of control emotionally. And knowing that that's okay, it's just information about what's going on around us. And, I sometimes feel, on days that are very charged for the whole world, like I feel it, and that's okay. And there's nothing wrong with it's when you get attached to it and you're like, oh, what's wrong with me that I'm feeling so much? That's when you kind of are not allowing yourself to just like flow through you. And, so that's like a lesson I learn every day, to let it be okay however you're feeling, and, not making it such a big deal. So, and not hiding from people. Cause I know before, for me, it was like very draining to be around people, which I think was also because I was just not being authentic. I just was, kind of acting as someone that I thought I should be. So that was exhausting. But also like being exhausted by like picking up so much, you don't, obviously you want to take time alone and to empty out, but not to hide. But yeah, we got, this is cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. And then I feel like during this pandemic has been amazing, because what you said earlier, it's like, I was always like keeping up with the events, keeping up with the dinners, keeping up with the people, just like going to places all over the place. And it was just like so exhausting, like keeping up with it all. So it's like, it all came like the whole grids of the world are like the stuff, all the illusion, all the things of keeping up are like coming crashing down to get back to like a balance, into like a root state. And so for me, it was like all this armor was just like all these things came. It's like took so much pressure off, because like there's a word for it. I forget. It's like it's an extrovert and an introvert, and it's an ambivert or something. So I'm both. I'm an extrovert and an introvert, and it's an ambivert. But it's like, so all the extroverted stuff was just like, and I've actually been able to focus and get so much more done effectively, like you were saying earlier, because I'm not trying to like keep up everything in the world. And I've just been able to like really kind of refocus and recenter. And hopefully a lot of people on a planetary level, we've all been able to have like this national reset together, and so, okay, let's continue. So did you want to elaborate more on food and, or what did you want to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, we are kind of all over the place, which is okay. So one thing, because we were talking about the arrows, how actually for you, a set routine might not work, and that's okay, right? The spiritual circles were like, oh, you have to have a morning routine and all that. But for some people, for inconsistent people, that doesn't work.
Right.
We're also taught that we have to know what we want and we have to go get it. But you're actually a non-specific and a non-strategic person, which means you want to be more general about what you want to manifest. It's more of like an open palm instead of like a grabby energy, like I need to get this. So it's the new world way of manifesting, where you just focus on how you want to feel and the next right action. You don't have to have a 5-year plan, as everyone tells you. You need a 5-year plan, and you need to know what you want and be specific. Like, actually, we're both non-specific. So I know the pain, because people have told me, they're like, well, if you don't know what you want, you're never going to accomplish anything.
And then they make you feel bad.
I know.
You question yourself. And it's like, who are they to project and tell you what you should be doing? Like they're the almighty God or something, right?
I mean, they're probably specific, so that works for them. But that's again, like, recognizing and knowing other people's designs can just help you release that judgment and be like, this is why they're acting this way. And that's okay. That's right for them. And then letting people know about your design too, so they can know how to interact with you better as well. So
let's dive in with the Reflector, which is the rarest of them all. What are some tips and things you can talk about the reflectors out there? Who are they? How can we find them?
So the reflectors, they're very, very sensitive to their environment. So it's really important for them to be in the right environment. And actually, the general wisdom is like kind of you need to, for the rest of the types, 99% of the world, it's like you kind of need to figure out who you are. But reflectors don't have like a set identity, in a way that if they're with funny people, they'll express like their funny side. So they're kind of chameleons that are always adapting to the environment. They really belong at the center of the tribe, and they reflect the health of the collective and how the collective is doing, really. So
who are a couple reflectors in the world? So,
Michael Jackson was one. I don't know if you know Teal Swan. She's one.
Of course.
Yeah. And the Balanced Blonde, if you follow her, she's a reflector. can't remember now, but yeah, those are a few rarest of the types. And actually, like, they don't have any centers defined. So they don't have like an authority, like we do. We have like a certain center defined, and that's our authority. And that's how, we're supposed to make decisions. So for them, so the rest of us are actually solar beings and they are lunar beings. So each 28-day period for them it's kind of like a lifetime. So for really important decisions, they're supposed to actually wait a lunar cycle, like 28 days. So
wow. My friend Elijah Sokolow, he's a musician, independent musician, so cool. He has a band called The Living Strange, and he was telling me his theory and how he'll put on like one cap and that's his focus and that's all he'll think about, and then he does the next project and that's all he thinks about, and then he moves on to the next one. I wonder if he's a reflector.
Yeah, it could be. Or, it's kind of hard to predict. He could be a manifesting generator, just like changing directions too.
Oh yeah.
So you never know.
So speaking about we've mentioned manifestor generators. You're one. Nikki Scorpio's one. Tell us more in depth about some brushstrokes of manifestor generators.
So yeah, I know like Jessica Alba, Tony Robbins are some, but manifesting generators. So they're kind of a hybrid between the manifestor and the generator. So the manifesting part is very like spontaneous and urge based, and it's like you get like these urges and you have to follow them, and it's very quick energy, the manifesting energy. And the generator part is a little slower. It's governed by the sacral. So manifesting generators kind of have two speeds within them. Someone asks you if you want to do something in like a month, and the manifestor part will get excited about it and be like, okay, yes. But then, like as the month goes on, the generator part, the sacral might be like, oh, I'm actually not that excited about it. So for manifesting generators, it's really important not to like lock ourselves into like long-term plans. It's all about freedom. Our path is not conventional. We change directions many times throughout our lives, and we often like have so many passions and so many different interests, and we need to pursue all of them. And, and the universe helps us out, helping us get really good at things quickly, because we're supposed to do so many things. So we have like if I were to learn guitar, I'd probably, pick it up really quickly, but I'm not supposed to be like, the best guitarist ever. Like I'm here to use that skill maybe of learning guitar and do something else with it and combine it with all my other interests. So we're really here as like, showing the world what's possible, being also just light and playful. And yeah, we're here to kind of lift us out of the heavy and hard and be kind of visionaries. I mean, each energy type is a visionary in its own way, but yeah, that's a little bit about manifesting generators.
Cool. And then my sister, Anna Chonacas, that I mentioned earlier, which led me to you. She is a genius and she is a full-blown generator. So she's a genius, as I just said, but she researches, she like Googles, she'll get all the information, and then she like presents it to a manifestor generator or a projector. So talk about more of a generator.
So, and actually I want to talk about the thing you mentioned with the research, because that's another part of your chart that I want to talk about. But first, generators. So generators are really here. They're like people. They're here to uplift the world. But, they have a lot of like past karma that they have to sacrifice in order to uplift the world. But really, the new way of doing things is kind of freeing the generator to just follow their own desires. And when they do what they're excited about, that's when they uplift the world. So it's like really the generator has to learn to be selfish, because for so many centuries, they were, considered the worker bees and were taken advantage of by manifestors. So there's a lot of heavy karma there. So they have to establish those boundaries. But like really, when a generator is doing what they're excited about, they're just like so sparkly, so juicy, and everyone wants to be around them. And they have a really enveloping aura and a very inviting aura. So
cool. I think I'm going to connect you and my sister on an email, and you guys go in depth with her chart. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah. And actually, so I wanted to talk a little bit about profile, because that's another part of your chart that's kind of about, So the first thing that's the most important thing to learn about is your energy type, then it's authority, and then third is profile. So the profile is kind of like personality, but also archetype.
Mm-hmm.
So for you, you're a 1-3 profile, which, Jenna Zoe calls the establisher of knowledge and truth. So each person has 2 numbers in their profile. So for you, it's a 1 and a 3, and the smaller number is first, which means that you have kind of more personal karma. So you're meant to be finding your worth through looking inwards and like realizing your worth. So I also have the first number smaller, which means that we're here to create karma.
Cool.
And, as a projector, you're not really aware of, how people see you. And actually the 1-3 profile, because the first number is smaller, you might not be sure about how you come across. So
yeah,
so
I
not
had that along the way. Like I'll just be maybe me, and people are just like sometimes their eyes are bigger. They're like, is she for real? Like, is she serious? Because like Nikki calls me like Carol Burnett or like Lucille Ball, like like this empowering woman who marches to the beat of her own drum, and really sarcastic and dry, but everything positive, like, but some people are just like, she's like a living cartoon character. Like, she sounds like a cartoon, acts like a cartoon, looks like a cartoon. So I've had to become more aware and was really strict on myself, but then becoming more comfortable with myself is just like, I am who I am. You find your tribe. If you're too loud for people, they're not your people. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, but go ahead.
So the 1 is kind of how you see yourself. The 1 likes to get to the bottom of things, like learns by understanding, like wanting to know the full scope of things, like being really prepared, and feels good with like knowledge and facts, and likes to study.
Just and unjust. I learned my moon. I think my moon, I'm a Scorpio, Libra, Sagittarius. I think my moon's a Sagittarius, or I don't know, or maybe my moon is. Anyways, but I'm like the balancer. So it's like, I'll think about something, I'll see something, and I'll hear every single story. Like you said, the bird in the tree, and I'm observing like everyone else. That's what I'll do. I'll like observe everything. But then not only will I observe everything and on an intellectual level, like in an intelligent, like understanding, but then with empathy and on an emotional level, I'll be able to hear all sides and then come to like a balanced choice of it being just or unjust. And for me, at my heart center, that's what it's about. It's not who I like more or who I don't like more. It's just about the balance of just and unjust.
Yeah. So that fits in with your profile. So 1 is really how you see yourself. So there are 6 numbers, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the 1 is all about like learning, knowledge. The 2 is kind of like naturally gifted in a way. I mean, obviously there's a lot more to the numbers, but the 3 learns by experience. So that's actually your second number. So how people see you is like you're kind of brave, like you're naturally not afraid of failure. Like your life is kind of like ups and downs and making mistakes, although they're just lessons really. So the 3 is all about like focusing on the lessons, what you're learning, and speaking the truth about what works and what doesn't, because you've experienced it and learned those lessons through your trial and error process. So when those 2 come together, you're the establisher of knowledge and truth. So you're kind of always looking for the next truth. But as you carry out your trial and error process, you get to like better and better truths. So it's like not like you'll arrive at one truth. You'll just, you'll always be searching for the next one.
Like evolving to the deeper
Yeah,
truth.
exactly. And knowing that truth will change, and that's okay, and that it'll evolve. And yeah, you're very spiritually curious, like naturally skeptical, and so yeah, the self-discovery process is just really important for you, and you formulate it into a system. And yeah, you just question everything, which is, well, it's a good thing. I guess, in human design, we don't say good thing or a bad thing. Everything is a thing. But Go ahead.
I was taught curiosity is the number 1 emotion, which is my favorite emotion. And I was taught when a baby's born, it's all hypnosis, right? It's based on what we see. And around 7 or 8 years old, the brain actually starts to develop. And so I just remembered being really, really young and making the choice that if I didn't know something or if I was curious, just to ask. Because a lot of times when you're young, you're told no, no, no. And then people hide and then they're scared to ask something if they don't know because they're going to feel embarrassed about looking stupid. So sometimes I was like the class clown because I would like ask something and people would make fun of me. But it was like, yo, I'd rather know than not know if I don't know. And like, I'd rather just ask. So I feel like even though like your brain is liquid until you're about, Dr. Bruce Lipton talks about this, but I guess your brain is liquid until you're about 7 or 8. And then the brain actually starts to develop. So yeah, I think the part of being curious and just asking is kind of keeping fluid and in flow with that curiosity and the bravery that you mentioned to be able to say, hey, and everyone look at you and you're like, and then you're like, yeah, that was me that just said that.
Yeah. And sharing like, the outcomes, not only things that work, but also things that like maybe didn't go the way. And that's like, I have a 3 in my profile. My 3 comes first. Like I'm a 3/5, but I know like, you don't want to share the things that didn't work, but I'm like, that's also important because it's part of the learning and you go through that trial and error process and not everyone goes through that. So you want to be able to tell people about that. Not everyone is as brave as the 3s. So
yeah, we need to have the uncomfortable conversations. I mean, that's what thankfully a lot of people have been screaming and shouting out in 2020 is we need to be able to break the old stigmas and break the barriers and the concrete of the junk and sit and have uncomfortable conversations and not project in a negative way, not blame or shame someone because of something that's going on, but be able to have those uncomfortable conversations and have respect to hear all sides and be in the uncomfortability of it all. That's how we're going to shift this energy, right?
Yeah. I love that. So another thing I wanted to mention that I'm obsessed about that I thought it was really cool about your chart because I haven't seen that. So it's the environment that we thrive in. So for you, it's kitchens. It can be literally kitchens, but it's just in places that are creative, like where people can commune and you can create something new or alchemize something, where there's a lot of action, or it's like a studio, something that invokes creativity in you. So I thought that was really an interesting part of your chart too.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Which is funny because I'm caves, so I love to be at home. Not like literal caves, but I enjoy being at home or in social contexts that I have some control over. So I think that's like a really cool part of human design that you can like know which environments you thrive in.
Well, I was in Cuba and there were some really cool caves there. And I know in New Mexico, there's some like really epic caves. So in the world, you can actually go to real life caves as well. So that's kind of cool. Yeah.
So for, like in our current context, it's mostly people who love to be home or kind of in control more of their, of like the social. So I like to, I don't like huge groups. I like one-on-one interaction. So that's how I manage my caves environment. But yeah, like it, human design can also tell you about your strongest sense. So for you, for example, it's touch. For me, it's smell. So it's, that's kind of can offer more, kind of intuitive guidance and your strongest sense. And, you also can learn about your purpose or your theme or your karma in this life. So for you, you have like a knowing that's very revolutionary. And it's all about also providing an explanation for your knowing. So it's not always an easy task because you have a very individual knowing. As others are trying to understand what you know, you might just want to be like, well, I just know because I know. But you continue to try to like get that information across and keep trying to get others to kind of understand what your genius is about, really.
Thank you. I received this.
And you actually, and then there's a whole another layer of like the gates and channels, and you have this channel that's called the Genius Freak. So you're kind of ahead of your time, and the people that get you will see you as a genius, and you have to see yourself as a genius. And things are just kind of obvious to you that are not obvious to others, and some people won't get you, and that's okay. And yeah, you have just these unique opinions and insight, and you have a specific way of seeing things and the ability of communicating it. So explaining it in kind of an obvious way, or making making things obvious to other people. So that's really cool. And
yeah, I've always felt like I've been ahead of my time. I've always knowing that I've been ahead of my time. It was like when I was little, I was like, yo, when is there going to be wireless everything? I was like, like, when are people going to catch up? Like, I would say things and do things. And it's like, it was like I was always be ahead of my time. Like, I always knew things. But along the way, even though when you know what you know, that you know, it's still challenging because like the other people who don't know, and then you're out there in the battle of the people, and then you face people and you have to go through the systems of society and this and this. And even though you already know things, you don't want to be so egotistical or thinking like you know everything. But it was also just like, it's like an uphill battle and disgusting and like hard along the way, So sometimes it's like, that's why I traveled the world and went to so many different places and met with so many different people, just not to be on the same system with the same repetition, because that will just boggle you down and put out your fire and your spirit. So that's why I just met friends all around the world and just travel and just kept like the energy moving and involved in different kinds of, scenarios, people, cultures, and places, just for that very reason. And so now I've been able to like kind of root down in a level where it's like, I feel like the world has caught up, in some areas. I feel like, I don't know, that's a whole other area. So won't go there, but moving right along, you were saying.
So I wanted to just mention a few more of your gates and channels. So you have like a love of logic, fear of chaos, which is like, helping others dispel chaos, getting a system in order, figuring out a system. So that's an important part of your chart. And you're also really good at listening and collecting stories. So people like naturally open up to you, and you kind of gather all that information that you receive from others, and you process the information that we've learned as a collective.
And it's sacred and it's loyal, and people can trust me with that, and I don't abuse it, and I honor it, and I use it for the collective whole of the macro experience.
Yes, totally. You're here to tell stories. You're here to turn stories into wisdom, and you have a lot of also altruism in your chart. So just wanting to improve the spiritual well-being of the planet. And, obviously each gate and channel can have like a negative or like a low expression, which, that can be a little codependent. But, in the high expression, you're really here to be altruistic, and you're also here to amplify what is good in others. And it's not something that you have to work hard at. It's kind of comes effortlessly to you.
It really does. It really does. It's like, I see you, I honor you, and it's a mirror reflection. So it's natural, So I like to always honor and embrace those things that I feel and that I see with individuals. I think it's important, because, there's quotes and there's sayings like you say something to someone, or if you're smiling, hey, nice sweater, or beautiful smile, you touch their lives, you touch their spirit and their soul, and they're going to remember you the whole entire day. You might just shift them from a negative to a positive, or for the week or the month or for a lifetime. They remember and you connect with their soul.
Yeah. I mean, you just kind of naturally make people more successful. So it's not like you always have to, focus on your own success. And actually that's like the signature feeling or thing that shows up when you're living your design as a projector is success. And when you're not waiting for the invitations, you feel bitterness. But basically you just make others more successful as you interact with them. So that's amazing. And you're also like you have a lot of like the army leader energy, which is like, you understand people's capabilities and limitations. You know who is good at what in a group, just like organizing things. And it's not like, you want to resist seeing yourself as above people, but just knowing that you're meant to be like a strong leader. But also, you have like the attunement to intimacy. So, well, on the, I guess, low expression side, it's like fear of intimacy. And on the high expression side, it's like attunement to intimacy. So in the low expression side, it's like, oh, everyone's separate from me. It's not safe to bond with people. But on the kind of high expression side, it's like, how to foster closeness with people. And that really comes easily to you. So
I've experienced both in depth, and the positive one, and not knowing what I know, but knowing, and then the negative one, and then being attached to it and not understanding and not knowing how to break free of it, and then understanding it and then choosing to be with the higher one instead of the lower one. So it's a balance, and it's definitely an awareness and experience that I can reflect on.
And yeah, you're also here to help others fall in love with their lives. And first you obviously, fall in love with your life, and then you help others. And you also have a lot of love of the physical self and its power. So, you're here to learn to love your physical self over the course of your life. And then you help others master it as well. And so facilitating that love for the body for others. And yeah, what else do I want to mention in terms of your gates and channels? I mean, that's really where your superpowers are for me. And you're here to kind of think on your feet and realize that's being present and letting your intuitive impulses, kind of wisdom from your body to guide your behaviors moment by moment. And there are a few fears because of your defined spleen. That's where the fears live. So you have some fear of the future, which is kind of might be, planning a lot and controlling and rehearsing on the low expression side. But on the high expression side, you see what's coming. You see what no one else might see. So, and, you have a fear of running out of time. That's low expression. High expression is a good sense of timing. So you might always be in a hurry, and we don't have time to sit around and do nothing. And you kind of might be rushing a lot, but also knowing that you have that sense of divine timing. And you have some fear of authority, which is about putting other people on pedestals, and creating kind of separation between yourself and people. But on the positive side, it's you're here to become an authority in your own life and help others become an authority as well. And the last fear, you have some fear of inadequacy. So that you're not qualified enough or concerned with developing skills you might lack. That's on the low expression side. And on the high expression side, you know what is missing or what is needed to make something work. So that's a little bit about that. And I think we covered a lot.
Yeah,
a lot
definitely.
of it.
I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. You just made my month. It's my birthday month. So this has just been such a treat. And I'm just going to take it deep within my soul, and I'm going to reflect. I'm going to pray. I'm going to journal. I'm going to do some writing. I'm going to take a bath with, some Epsom salts, and just take some magnesium to put minerals inside my body, and just maybe light a candle, and, just do a little ritual to close this session, and just, be in gratitude of this moment, and carry it with me through the rest of 2020 and into a strong 2021. And I think people are really going to gain a lot of insight and value from hearing and seeing this episode. So I'll have all your information in the show notes. If you want to let everyone know again, that would be really cool. And they can reach out to you directly and say they found you from She's All Over the Place podcast. Maybe you can offer them a 5 or 10% discount or something like that. That would be really neat and harmonious.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Sonia Petecka, SoniaPetecka, and the same, my website's just my first name, last name.com. So we'll have that in the show notes, and definitely reach out to me for a discount if you mention the podcast. We'll work something out. So.
Yeah, and the other thing is, Sonia can do your human design in depth, and she can do your human design. However, you can also go and do your human design for free. There's the Jehovian website. What's the website? So people can actually go and do their human design, know what they are, check out some forms or whatever, and then contact you and say, hey, I'm a manifestor generator. I heard the podcast, found out what my design was, and I would like to get an in-depth session with you, coaching, this and that. So what's the website exactly?
So I use mybodygraph.com.
Yeah,
so,
mybodygraph.com. Okay, and I'll have that in the show notes as well. So you can do your human design for free there, but then have an in-depth chart with someone like Sonia.
Exactly. So yeah. And now, you know, I offer, like, as I mentioned, I offer the support after the human design reading, so people can ask me questions and I can also support them in implementing this. I did not plan. I forgot that it got dark so early now. It's like so dark. But I didn't want to move to turn on the light. But anyways,
most people will be hearing it audio anyway.
Right.
Yeah, we're just in the podcast movement 10-day conference, and the top 200 podcasts. So they say like podcast videoing is like it's beneficial, more helping. It's not. It's a myth, because the top 200 podcasts out of all the podcasts out there, 1.5 million, the top 200 do not have video. So most of the people will hear on audio. However, this is just an added perk that I put on my YouTube channel, The Sophisticated Psychos. So if you want to see this in a video format, go to The Sophisticated Psychos YouTube channel and see the episode of Sonia and me and the human design on She's All Over the Place. All her information will be there as well. Cool.
Thank you. This was really a great conversation, and yeah, look forward to talking again soon. You obviously done a lot of personal growth and spiritual work, so it really shows, and you are living your design in so many ways. So I just want to recognize you, because that takes a lot of dedication. So.
Thank you. Two things. So, Evolving Wisdom, it was with the woman who created the human potential. And, I'm a big fan of hers. And she was saying, people like you and me, we're the midwives. We're allowing people to be on our journey, to share our experience, what we have thus far. And we're being the midwife for people on their spiritual path and just living, as human beings, right? Through our human design. And so I love that about us. Go us. And then the other thing is, something came to me. It was like, I know it's kind of forward to say this, but something came to me. It was like not too long ago. I don't know, months ago, within the last year. So Socrates, his definition of a philosopher is a person who is a lover, a seeker of wisdom. And I've been that ever since I'm a kid, and I'm Greek, Greek Orthodox Christian. And just within this last year, it was brought to my attention, like, I'm Socrates' sister. So like, you are talking to Socrates' sister. What's up? Kyriaki is my name. I'm named after the saint, Saint Kyriaki. It means Sunday, God's day in Greek. And I'm named after my yaya. She's my bestest friend in the whole world. She just turned 91. And so I just think it's cool. Like, my tribe, my vibe is Socrates. And like, I'm his sister, younger sister, obviously. But yeah, cool. All right. Well, I totally appreciate you, and everyone reach out to Sonia and subscribe and leave a comment and learn about your human design. And if you have children, definitely have your children do their human design. And if you have a partner, have them do their human designs. And then we can understand each other a bit more.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, the children thing, it's like, it's so important, especially for 3. Like, if you have a 3 in your profile, like, letting your child know that, it's okay to make a mistake and focus on that learning. Like, I mean, there are a lot of things, but knowing about your child's human design. And I'm like, I feel like, you're just like a much better parent.
I don't have children yet, but thank God I know. Well, this is one of the reasons why I don't have children yet. I wanted to wait later on so I could like learn so much and then bring a child into the world. Because those parents who like bring children into the world and then they project everything onto their children and they're still kids and they don't know. And it's like a big mess. So it's like, I wanted to fully like experience the world, the universe in God's grace, have a career, and then learn as much as I possibly can and appreciate the fact that I'm here and fill my cup fully, totally overfilling, and then be able to have a child. And now I know about the human design. I can, definitely, God willing, one day I have children, I'm able to share this with them.
I have felt the same about, I still don't have children, but I guess my parents, this is vulnerable to share, but my parents were totally clueless about what they were doing. So I was like, okay, if I have a child, I need to exactly, not come from that like burden energy, like the child is a burden, but really, this is like, I am so excited to have a child and really coming from that overflowing kind of state. state where, I'm just so excited to share whatever I have with the child. So anyway, we got distracted by.
Yeah. Well, speaking of sharing, I would love to in the near future, have you back on. She's all over the place if you're up for it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's so much more to talk about.
Okay.
So
well, let's digest, process, live life, and then we'll tune in again with one another.
Okay. I promise I'll have better lighting. Thank you.
Okay. Take care. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time. Kitty over and out.